Why some countries are rich and others stay poor. Level B. 1. Intermediate. Why are some countries full of wealth, opportunities, and modern technology, while others struggle with poverty, weak healthcare, and limited education? This question has interested economists, historians, and politicians for many years. At first, the answer seems simple. Some countries have more natural resources, better governments, or more educated people. But the truth is much more complex. Many different factors work together to shape the economic situation of a nation. In this text, we will explore the main reasons why some countries become rich while others stay poor, and how these factors connect to everyday life. 1. What does it mean for a country to be rich? When we say a country is rich, we usually mean it has a high standard of living. People in rich countries often have good jobs, strong health care, safe homes, quality education, modern infrastructure, stable governments. Economists often measure wealth using GDP per capita, how much value a country produces per person. But money alone is not everything. A country can have natural resources or large industries and still have many poor people. Real wealth also includes fairness, safety, and access to opportunities. 2. Geography. A country's location matters. Geography plays an important role in a country's development. Some countries are naturally lucky. They may have fertile land, access to the ocean, good climate, rich natural resources. For example, countries in Europe developed strong economies partly because rivers and oceans made trade easy. Japan and South Korea have access to the sea, which helped them become global trading powers. On the other hand, countries with difficult geography face challenges. Nations in the Sahara Desert struggle with water shortages. Some countries in the mountains or rainforests find it difficult to build roads or transport goods. Landlocked countries, those without direct access to the sea, often pay more for trade. However, geography is not destiny. Some countries with limited resources, like Singapore or Switzerland, became very rich by focusing on education, trade, and innovation. 3. Natural resources, blessing or curse. People often assume that countries with oil, gold, or diamonds should be wealthy. But natural resources can be both a blessing and a curse. The blessing. Resources bring money. Countries like Norway or the United Arab Emirates use oil wealth to support education, infrastructure, and social programs. The curse. Some countries become too dependent on one resource. When prices fall, the whole economy suffers. In some places, powerful groups fight over control of resources, causing corruption or even war. This problem is known as the resource curse. For example, countries with large oil reserves in Africa or South America sometimes struggle with inequality and political instability. This shows that resources alone cannot guarantee wealth, leadership, and planning matter more. 4. History. The long shadow of colonization. Many poor countries today were colonies in the past. European empires controlled large parts of Africa, Asia, and the Americas for centuries. Colonizers took natural resources, forced local people to work, and created borders without considering local cultures. When these countries finally became independent, they faced serious problems. Weak institutions, lack of education systems, political conflicts, poor infrastructure, economies designed only for export, not for local needs. Countries like Ghana, India, and Kenya had to rebuild their entire societies after colonization. Some succeeded better than others, depending on leadership and stability. This historical disadvantage explains why many developing countries started their journey behind those in Europe or North America. 5. Government and institutions, rules that shape life. One of the most important factors in a country's wealth is the quality of its institutions, the systems that govern life. Strong institutions create fair laws, low corruption, protection of property, safety for citizens, trust in government, support for businesses. Countries like Canada, Japan, and Germany have strong institutions that encourage investment and innovation. But in countries with weak institutions, corruption becomes common. Businesses fear losing money. Foreign investors stay away. Public money is wasted. People lose trust in government. For example, two countries with similar resources may have completely different levels of wealth simply because one has fair rules and the other does not. 6. Education, the foundation of development. Education is one of the strongest keys to a country's success. A population with strong skills and knowledge can create new technology, build strong companies, and improve health and productivity. Countries like South Korea and Finland invested heavily in schools after difficult periods in their history. Today, they are leaders in innovation and economic growth. On the other hand, countries with limited access to education struggle. Child labor increases. Jobs stay low-skilled. Innovation remains weak. Poverty continues for generations. Education is a powerful tool that breaks the cycle of poverty and helps countries grow. 7. Health. A healthy population can work and innovate. Good health is essential for economic progress. When people are healthy, they work more effectively and live longer, more productive lives. Richer countries usually have clean water, strong hospitals, vaccination programs, safe food, access to doctors. In contrast, poor countries often face diseases, malnutrition, and weak healthcare systems. Illness reduces productivity, increases government costs, and keeps families in poverty. For example, malaria and other infectious diseases slow economic growth in many African nations. Countries with strong health systems grow faster because their populations are able to learn, work, and innovate. 8. Technology and innovation. Technology drives modern economies. Countries that invest in research, digital tools, and modern equipment grow faster. The United States, South Korea, Germany, and China are strong because they innovate constantly. Technology helps countries produce goods more efficiently, improve communication, create new industries, solve environmental problems, compete globally. Poorer nations often lack infrastructure, electricity, internet, reliable transportation, which makes it difficult to adopt modern technology. 9. Culture and social norms. Culture influences how societies develop. Some cultural values encourage growth, such as trust, responsibility, cooperation, saving money, long-term planning. Other cultural norms can slow development, such as resistance to change, distrust of outsiders, strict social hierarchy, gender inequality. For example, in some countries, women cannot easily access education or jobs. This reduces the workforce by half and slows economic progress. Culture alone does not determine wealth, but it influences how societies adapt to change and solve problems. 10. Conflict and stability. War and political instability are major reasons why countries stay poor. Conflict destroys homes, schools, hospitals, businesses, government structures. It also forces millions of people to flee their homes. Countries like Syria, Afghanistan, and South Sudan have lost decades of economic progress because of war. Even when conflict ends, recovery takes a long time. Stability is necessary for investment, tourism, innovation, and education. 11. Trade. Connecting to the global economy. Trade is one of the main engines of economic growth. Countries that sell goods to the world and buy what they need in return usually grow faster. When nations trade, businesses expand. People gain access to new products. Innovations spread faster. Jobs are created. Countries like China, Germany, and Singapore became rich largely because they focused on global trade. But some countries struggle to compete internationally. They may export only a few products, such as coffee, cotton, or minerals. If prices drop, their entire economy suffers. This makes it difficult to plan for the future. To grow, countries need to diversify, to produce many different things, not just one or two. 12. Inequality. Wealth that doesn't reach everyone. Even in countries with strong economies, not everyone benefits equally. If wealth is concentrated in the hands of a small group, most people still live in poverty. This inequality slows development. When many people lack education, healthcare, opportunities, fair wages, the country cannot use its full potential. Rich countries today often invested early in systems that reduce inequality, like public education and social programs. Poorer countries may need to improve these systems to ensure more people can contribute to the economy. 13. Corruption, a hidden cost. Corruption is a major barrier to growth. When officials use public money for personal gain, or when businesses must pay bribes, development becomes very difficult. Corruption reduces trust, scares away investors, increases the cost of services, slows down infrastructure projects, creates unfair conditions. Countries with high corruption often cannot provide basic services like clean water, safe roads, or reliable electricity because money disappears before it reaches its destination. On the other hand, countries with low corruption, like New Zealand, Denmark, and Canada, tend to have stronger economies and happier citizens. 14. Population growth. Challenges and opportunities. Population size can help or hurt a nation. Some countries grow quickly because they have a young population ready to work. Others struggle because their population grows faster than available resources. High population growth can lead to unemployment, lack of housing, pressure on schools, pressure on hospitals, environmental problems. But if countries invest in education, jobs, and technology, a young population can become an advantage. This is called a demographic dividend. 15. Agriculture and food security. In many developing countries, agriculture is the main source of income. Modern agriculture needs irrigation, good seeds, machines, training, safe storage. Without these, farmers cannot produce enough food or sell their products at a good price. In richer countries, farming is efficient and productive, but in poorer nations, farmers often struggle with droughts, floods, and low-quality soil. These challenges keep people poor and reduce national growth. 16. Urbanization, moving to cities. As countries develop, people move from rural areas to cities. Cities offer better jobs, education, healthcare, transportation. Urbanization helps countries grow, but only if cities are well planned. Poorly managed cities face problems like traffic, pollution, overcrowded housing, unsafe neighborhoods. Successful urban planning can turn cities into engines of growth, like in Tokyo, Seoul, and Toronto. 17. Gender equality, using everyone's talent. Countries grow faster when both men and women can work, study, and participate in society. Gender inequality, when women have fewer rights and opportunities, slows down development. Research shows that when girls receive education, families become healthier, poverty decreases, economies grow, communities become more stable. Countries that support women's rights, equal pay, and access to education usually develop faster and build stronger, more balanced societies. 18. Good leadership, decisions that shape nations. Leadership plays an enormous role in a country's future. Good leaders invest in education, reduce corruption, build roads, schools, and hospitals, protect rights, encourage business and innovation. Bad leaders can destroy economies, start wars, or steal public money. History shows this clearly. Some nations with strong potential remained poor for decades because of poor decisions at the top. 19. Globalization, opportunities and risks. Globalization connects countries through trade, technology, travel, and communication. It gives developing countries access to new markets, foreign investment, modern tools, international knowledge. However, globalization also has risks. Small local businesses may lose to large foreign companies. Economies become more dependent on global markets. Cultural traditions may weaken. Countries that manage globalization wisely tend to grow faster. 20. Climate change and environmental problems. Environmental challenges are becoming major barriers for developing nations. Climate change causes stronger storms, longer droughts, rising sea levels, loss of farmland. These problems affect food production, health, and infrastructure. Poor countries often suffer the most because they cannot afford expensive solutions like seawalls or advanced irrigation. Rich countries also have a responsibility to help, since they historically produced more pollution. 21. Foreign aid. Does it help? Rich nations and international organizations often give aid to poorer countries. This money supports education, healthcare, emergency relief, clean water projects, economic development. However, aid is not always effective. Sometimes it is used poorly, lost to corruption, or spent on short-term solutions instead of long-term progress. The best aid programs work with local communities, strengthen institutions, and encourage independence rather than dependency. 22. The poverty trap. Many nations fall into a poverty trap, a cycle that is very hard to escape. It works like this. People are poor. They cannot afford education. Without education, they cannot get good jobs. Without good jobs, they cannot invest in their children. The cycle continues for generations. Breaking this cycle requires strong government support, better schools, good health care, and investment in jobs. 23. Success stories. Countries that changed their future. Some countries were once very poor, but became rich through smart planning and hard work. South Korea. In the 1950 seconds, it was one of the poorest countries in the world. Today, it is a global leader in technology and education. Singapore? With almost no natural resources, it focused on trade, innovation, and strict anti-corruption policies. Now, it is one of the richest nations. Rwanda. After a tragic genocide in 1994, the country rebuilt itself with strong leadership, anti-corruption measures, and investment in healthcare. These examples show that poverty is not permanent. With the right decisions, countries can change their future. 24. Why the problem is complicated. There is no single reason why countries are rich or poor. Geography, history, politics, education, culture, and global events all interact. Two countries with similar resources can have opposite results depending on leadership, stability, social values, international relationships, investment choices. Understanding this complexity helps us avoid simple explanations and see the bigger picture. 25. Conclusion. A shared responsibility. The question of why some countries are rich and others remain poor has no easy answer. But one thing is clear. Poverty is not only a national issue, it is a global one. Rich countries, developing nations, international organizations, and individuals all play a role in building a fairer world. By improving education, supporting good governance, reducing corruption, and encouraging innovation, nations can move toward a better future. And by understanding the reasons behind global inequality, we can make smarter decisions and create a world where more people have the chance to live healthy, safe, and productive lives.